Hello everyone and welcome. Now in this lesson we'll be learning how to add a custom cursor to our game. So it doesn't have this normal boring white cursor. So this is actually a cursor I downloaded off the internet and I colored it to be red. So you can do the same if you want. And I added an animation for it. And I'm gonna teach you how to do that. It's really simple and easy. You can now select play, settings, or you can quit. If you quit, it'll quit from the game. If you select settings, it'll take you to settings, go back, and you can select play to play. And the cursor changes if you're in play mode, if you play the game. If you're on level 1, the cursor changes to this cursor. And if you want to learn how to add a gun right here and to make it shoot to the direction you are pointing at, to the direction you are shooting at, I'll actually be making a lesson about that in the near future. So if you want, just don't forget to like and subscribe. And with that, let's get started. Alright, so this is gonna be really easy. Now I have these two little cursors right here. I have the crosshair cursor. If I'm in play mode, I want this to be the normal default cursor, and if I'm in a main menu, for example the settings menu or the main menu, this to be the cursor. So first of all, just to make things a bit tidy, I'll go to create, go to folder, and create a folder called cursors. And I'm gonna select the both of them with control, and I'm gonna drag them into the cursors folder. Now, this is actually going to be really simple. Now, first of all, put in the cursor you want. If you want to just make a normal cursor for just the main menu, you can actually just put in the normal cursor right here, and we'll get started. But what I want to do is I actually want to put in the crosshair cursor. So how I want to start about this is I'm not going to add this in the main menu. I'm actually going to add the crosshair, because I'm gonna be using the crosshair more, because well, we're gonna be having like 20, or we're gonna be having like more levels than the main menu, and that's like actually the normal case. Like you have more levels than you have menus. So I'm actually gonna be using this, but I'm gonna be writing a script for if we're in a scene that is not, if we're in a scene that is the main menu scene or the settings scene, we'll be using this cursor. Alright, so I think this cursor is actually pretty big, so I'm gonna make it like something like maybe 2 by 2. Or you know what? Maybe just go back to assets. Maybe just go back to scenes and select the settings scene and just save. Oh, not the settings, level 1 scene. And I'm going to delete the crosshair prefabs because we don't have them. Okay, so first of all, let's just go to cursors and put it right here. Very cool. I'm gonna be setting the scale of the x-axis to 0.2 and the scale of the y-axis to also 0.2. The z-axis doesn't really matter if it's 0.2 or whatever, because we're not making a 3D game, we're making a 2D game. And in a 2D game, z-axis doesn't really matter that much. Except the Z rotation. The Z rotation matters, but the scale, it doesn't matter that much. So now I'm gonna be adding a mouse cursor script that I made right here. It's right here in scripts, mouse cursor script, and it has nothing inside of it. So right here, a mouse cursor script is literally empty. It has nothing inside of it except the public class mouse cursor. I've even deleted the update method and the start method, just to make things a bit more tidy. Alright, so after adding the little sprite right here and making it 0.2 and adding this empty mouse cursor script, let's start coding. So first of all, we'll call a private sprite renderer and we'll call it rend. Now in the start function equals get component sprite renderer. If it's not showing, just type it in the exact same way I'm typing it. And let's add a public sprite mouse cursor for the normal. So I'm gonna call this mouse cursor normal. So what this basically is that it's the normal mouse cursor. It's this right here. Cursors. It's this right here. This is the normal mouse cursor. And I'm gonna be making another sprite, a public sprite, and I'm gonna be calling it mouse cursor shoot. Alright, so void start, first of all, cursor's visibility, cursor, It's actually really easy to explain. What's happening right here is we're calling the private sprite renderer. We're calling the sprite renderer. We're getting component sprite renderer. We're actually calling it here and renaming it to rend, just to like get a source. Like we can grab it whenever we want. We can call this rend, and we're getting the component rend equals what's rend. So rend equals get components. These are actually components. These right here, each of them is a component. So get component, what component do we want? We want the sprite renderer component, and we can add it right here. But so what we can basically do if we don't want to do this is we can get components and then sprite renderer. Whenever we want to actually change the sprite renderer, and then put in a two brackets right here, and then dot something we want to happen. So for example, we want to change the sprite. We're gonna have to type all of this, but instead we can easily just type rend, and it'll do the exact same thing because rend equals get component sprite renderer. Okay, so now what's left is adding the mouse cursor normal sprite and adding the crosshair sprite. And let's just close this. Let's make a vector2 variable, and let's call it cursor pause, as in cursor position, equals camera dot main dot screen to world point, and input dot mouse position. Where is it? It's mouse position. Alright, so what's happening right here is basically we're getting a variable, a vector2 variable. So what a vector2 variable is, it's actually it stores x and y positions. So a vector2 stores an x and y position. A vector3 actually stores an x, y, and a z position. But we're actually making a 2D game, so we don't have any like need for a vector3. So a vector2 just does its job. So a vector2 cursor pause, which is the cursor position with the variable that we're calling vector2 cursor pause, equals camera. So the camera dot main dot screen to world point, and input the mouse position. So we're basically just getting the mouse position. This is just the mouse position basically. Let's add if scene manager. You're going to have to type using Unity Engine dot scene management. If scene manager dot get active scene equals scene manager dot get scene by name main menu test, or I'm gonna be talking about what this means in a second, or scene manager of these right here. Just basically just copy all of this, but instead of typing it again, just copy it and then call this settings. Alright, so what this basically is, if we're in a scene, if we're in the main menu test scene, so if I save, go back here, file, build settings. Alright, so these are basically the scenes that we want the normal mouse cursor to be in. So the main menu test scene, which is the main menu test, the main menu that we actually built in our previous episode. If you want, you can check that out in the top right corner if you want to learn how to make a good main menu. And this is the setting scene. Subscribe and like because I'm gonna be adding a lot of lessons in the near future, so don't miss that chance, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And level 1, which is this, we actually want the crosshair to spawn and not the normal cursor pause. Alright, so if scene manager dot get active scene equals scene manager dot get scene by name, which is this scene, main menu test, or this is basically the or sign to put in two of these what they're called, two like straight lines, or scene manager dot get active scene also equals the same thing but different name. Save, and then what do we want to happen? So we actually want the renderer dot sprite equals, so if they're in the main menu test and then the settings, you can add in more scenes if you have like a main menu, a pause menu, and everything else. And now add an else statement. Else you're so if you're not in the main menu test or the settings or whatever, how many like main menu or menus you have, else you have to be in a normal level. So if you're not there, you have to be in the normal level. So rend dot sprite equals mouse cursor shoot. So the normal mouse cursor, and that's it. So if you're not here, you're actually here. Very cool. Now let's go back to Unity. Let's make a crosshair prefab right here. So we actually just change it from here and then add in the prefab, so we don't have to like add in mouse cursor script again and again and again. We just put in the mouse cursor prefab in all the scenes. So let's go back to scenes. Let's go to main menu test that we did in the last lesson, and let's go to cursors and let's add one cursor here, and let's go back. As you can see, it's the same exact data, so the same exact like mouse cursor normal. You don't have to add them one by one again. So scenes, and then go to settings, just delete this. I'm gonna delete this and go to cursors, add this right here. Now let's save, and let's go back to the main menu test. Let's play and let's see what happens. Okay, so there was actually an error in our code and in my code. Well, you didn't have an error in your code. So I forgot to add in the transform dot position equals cursor pause. So cursor pause. Okay, so this cursor pause right here, we forgot to add the transform dot position. So in every frame in our update method, so update is basically like in every frame it it does this code, it performs this code. So in every frame we want the transform dot position to be cursor pause. So in every frame we want the normal transform dot position of our mouse, we want it to be the cursor position, if you get that. So let's go back and let's press on play and let's see what happens. Alright, so it actually goes left and right. Very cool. Now there is one thing, which is if I go to level 1, if I go to the main menu, and if I play, as you can see, let's just go to the settings and check something out. If I go to the settings right here, if it works, as you can see, and if I go back, it's the mouse is like, it's, I want it to tilt it a bit, just a little bit. So what I want to do is go to crosshair, tilt the rotation a bit, the Z rotation, to something like 30 or maybe 28. 28, oh no, not 38, 28. And let's play. Alright, so now if we play, settings, quit. And now if I just maximize this a bit, now for me this position is a bit too small. If this is a normal mouse position for you, you can just keep it this way, but I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. So if I go to settings, it's actually tilted, so I'm gonna just fix that. If I go to play, it changes. Very cool. But the normal play is actually, the normal play is actually good size. So just one thing, I'm gonna go to settings, save, yeah, and I'm gonna select crosshair and select the rotation to be something like 28, same as the main menu. And what I'm gonna do, you can actually just set it as this rotation in the script. Like if it's in the main menu test or the settings, you can actually set the rotation, transform that rotation equals to vector 2, and then you change the rotation right there. I want it to be a bit bigger. I want the normal mouse position to be I want the normal mouse cursor to be a bit bigger in the main menu test and the settings. The normal like mouse cursor shoot is actually very average size, but the mouse cursor normal is very small. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a public vector 2, and then I'm gonna call this right here transform dot local scale. Come on, transform, oops, not the capital letter transform but the small letter, transform dot local scale equals size, and then put in a semicolon right here. Now let's go back and let's select 0.4 by 0.4. Now if we play, alright, this is actually pretty good. Okay, so I think I actually just made it 0.4 in this, and I forgot to override it. Alright, so I forgot to set it as, I should have gone to the prefab and the right here and set it as 0.4 from here. But same thing, I just made it to save and all. I just clicked on overrides and applied all. So I applied all to the exact prefab. So it should apply to all scenes. So now if I go to scene and if I go to main menu test, if I play, it should be like 0.4. It should be like normal size. For me, this is normal size. For you, maybe not. Oops. Yeah, I think I actually pressed on play. Alright, so now if we press on settings, it's normal size. Go back to play, it's the same normal size. Very cool. Now, what's left is just to create an animation. So animating is actually really easy. You go to where you want to animate it. So actually, first of all, what you want to do is you want to go back here and you want to select, you want to go back here and you want to call private animator, not the animation, animator, and make it anim. Then save. And then right here, you want to go to the void start and do the same thing for the renderer, sprite renderer, but make it for anim. So anim equals animator, just to make things a bit easier for us. And now right here, if I go to animate, if I go to anim dot set bool normal cursor, and then I'm gonna copy this, the exact spacing, and then I'm gonna go back. Now I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste it into the else, but make an exception for this and make it false. Okay, so now I go back into Unity and I actually copy the name. Come on. I'm gonna copy the name and I'm gonna go to select the cursor, the crosshair, sorry, and I'm gonna go to create and create a new animation, assets, animation, main menu. I'm gonna just how about I make a separate animation? You know what? I'm just gonna put it inside the main menu, and I'm gonna set it as cursor dot anim. I'm gonna save it and I'm gonna start animating. So I'm gonna go back into scene, I'm gonna select this little record option, and I'm gonna make my make this a bit bigger and make it smaller. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just adjust the position a bit, and then I'm gonna start playing with, I'm gonna make it a bit bigger and a bit smaller so it stays the same. I just held on control just to make it a bit bigger and smaller, and I'm gonna go all the way to like something like 30 and make it a bit bigger, just a little tiny bit, and then make it again 0.2. You know what, 0.2, and then 0.2. Then I'm gonna save it. Come on. So it's something like, come on. So it just like gets bigger and smaller, constantly gets bigger and smaller, bigger and smaller. And now I'm gonna actually deselect on this animation just to stop recording. And now this is the normal animation. Now I'm gonna select a new, create a new clip, and I'm gonna call it normal cursor state. Okay. Now I'm gonna select on anim, and I'm just gonna leave it. I'm not gonna play with it. Now I'm gonna go to normal cursor state, and I'm gonna select it as the state default layer. Now I'm gonna go to make transition between cursor and make transition between cursor to normal cursor state. I'm gonna select a parameter, call it bool, and I'm gonna paste in the name, the exact same name with the exact same line spacing, and I'm gonna deselect has time, make it 0.1. Make the condition if normal cursor is true, and deselect this 0.1, make the normal cursor false, then save. Now if I play, the normal cursor should appear. Alright, so it actually disables the like height it was, the scale it was actually 0.4, now it's actually 0.2 and getting bigger and smaller. Now, if you want to keep it this way, if you want to animate it and keep it this way, I advise you to keep it this way, because if you actually animate it when it's bigger, it's gonna actually be like very big and annoying. But if you want to make it bigger, I'm actually gonna teach you the other way. So, it's actually very easy. Just make the transform the local scale, delete this, put the transform down local scale here, and select Control RR. This is actually a very cool feature that is available in Visual Studio. You select Control RR 2 times, and it actually renames the actual variable in all the places you put it. So mouse cursor normal size is actually mouse cursor shoot size. I'm gonna select and then put it right here. Maybe just alright. Then I'm gonna go back into Unity. Alright, so back in Unity, I'm gonna make the crosshair something like 0.4, 0.2 and 0.2. This is the normal crosshair. This is this crosshair that is available in the levels. So apply all, and now the scale of this crosshair will be, I'm actually gonna delete this animation because, well, it was actually 0.2, or you know what, I'm not gonna delete it. More so, I'm gonna make it 0.4. Or you know what, just make it 0.3, and I'm gonna make this also 0.3. I'm gonna make this, just change this value right here and change this value right here, and then I'm gonna copy this first keyframe, and then I'm gonna set it last here, put it at the end, then save. Then it's a little animation. Now if I play, alright, so it's actually getting bigger and smaller. You can actually make it a bit bigger because, like, if you want that. Now if we play, it's 0.2. Very cool. Alright, okay, so that was actually it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Comment down if you want comments. Dislike if you actually dislike this video. Comment down what you want, any feedback. Comment down what you want the next episode to be about. And well, that's it. See you in the next video.